The air was thick with smoke. The roar of cannon fire thundered across the Belgian fields, and men clashed in desperate combat. For hours, the fate of Europe hung in the balance on a muddy June day in 1815. When the dust cleared, it was his strategy, his resolve, and his leadership that secured victory and changed the course of history. His name was Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, known to his men as the Iron Duke, and to history as the man who ended the Napoleonic Wars. But Wellington was far more than just the commander at Waterloo. He was a soldier who built his career in the heat of India, a statesman who steered Britain through turbulent politics, and a man of contradictions, aloof in public, yet deeply principled in private. His life was a journey from a quiet, overlooked youth to one of the greatest generals and leaders Britain ever produced. Arthur Wellesley was born on May 1, 1769, in Dublin, Ireland, into the Anglo-Irish aristocracy. He was the third surviving son of Garrett Wesley, the Earl of Mornington, and Anne Wellesley. The Wellesleys were a respected family, but Arthur's early years gave little sign of future greatness. As a child, Arthur was quiet, reserved, and considered something of a disappointment. Unlike his elder brothers, he was neither particularly charming nor academically outstanding. His mother even despaired of him, once remarking that he was food for powder and nothing more, implying that he was fit only to be cannon fodder. Arthur was educated in England, attending Eton for a time, but he did not shine there either. Yet his path began to change when he entered military training in Angers, France. The discipline and structure of military life suited him, and though not a natural scholar, he began to apply himself with a seriousness that would later define him. In 1787, at the age of 18, Arthur purchased a commission as an ensign in the British Army. This was a common practice at the time, with officers buying their ranks. But while many treated it as a career of leisure, Arthur saw it as an opportunity. He quickly proved himself reliable, steady, and competent. At first, his career was unremarkable. He spent years in staff and regimental duties, learning the slow grind of soldiering. During this period, he also developed his love of music, playing the violin with skill. But his military ambitions soon outweighed his other pursuits. By the early 1790s, with Europe convulsed by war after the French Revolution, opportunities for advancement appeared. Wellesley's first real experience of combat came in the Low Countries during the campaign against revolutionary France in 1794. It was a bitter and poorly organized campaign, plagued by harsh conditions and indecisive leadership. Wellesley endured the hardships, but learned valuable lessons about logistics, preparation, and the dangers of reckless command. Disillusioned by the failures of British leadership in Europe, he later remarked that he had learned what not to do from that campaign, a lesson that would serve him well when he commanded armies of his own. Wellington's career truly began in India. In 1797, he sailed east as a colonel of the 33rd Regiment of Foot. The subcontinent was a crucible of power struggles, the British East India Company seeking to expand against Indian rulers such as Tipu, Sultan of Mysore, and the Maratha Confederacy. In 1799, during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Wellesley distinguished himself at the siege of Seringapatam. Though initially criticized for a minor setback, he quickly redeemed himself with his firm leadership and organizational skill. Over the next several years, he gained increasing responsibility, honing his command style. His greatest test in India came in 1803 at the Battle of Assaye, where he faced the Maratha army, far larger than his own. Wellesley's bold tactics and ability to inspire his men carried the day, securing a decisive victory. Later, he would describe Assaye as his greatest battle, not because it was the largest or most famous, but because of the immense challenge he overcame. By the time he left India in 1805, Arthur Wellesley had risen to the rank of Major General and amassed a reputation as a skilled and dependable commander. Back in Britain, Wellesley married Catherine Pakenham, a woman he had courted years earlier. Their marriage, however, was not a particularly happy one. While loyal, the couple lived largely separate lives, with Wellington devoted to his career and Catherine retreating into domestic quiet. His professional life, meanwhile, surged forward. In 1808, Britain sent forces to Portugal to resist Napoleon's expansion into the Iberian Peninsula. Wellesley, now a lieutenant general, led British troops in a campaign that would define his career. The Peninsular War was long, brutal, and complex. Wellesley faced the formidable French armies that had conquered much of Europe, but he had advantages. The rugged terrain of Spain and Portugal suited defensive warfare, and the Spanish guerrillas constantly harassed French supply lines. Wellesley proved a master of strategy. At the Battle of Vimeiro in 1808, he defeated a French army, though political maneuvering temporarily removed him from command. Restored the following year, he embarked on a campaign that slowly bled the French in the Iberian Peninsula. His defensive mastery was showcased at the lines of Torres Vedras in 1810, where he constructed massive fortifications that halted a French invasion. Again and again, he wore down Napoleon's marshal's Marmont, Soult through careful planning, discipline, and patience. Unlike many generals, Wellesley refused to gamble recklessly with his men's lives. By 1813, his strategy culminated in the Battle of Vittoria, a crushing defeat for the French that effectively ended their dominance in Spain. For his achievements, Wellesley was elevated to the rank of Duke of Wellington. In 1815, Napoleon escaped exile on Elba and returned to power in France, launching the 100 Days Campaign. Europe trembled once again. Wellington was placed in command of the Anglo-Allied forces in Belgium, tasked with stopping Napoleon. On June 18, 1815, the two titans faced each other at Waterloo. The battle raged for hours, with Wellington's forces holding defensive positions against repeated French assaults. The arrival of the Prussian army under Blucher tipped the balance, and Napoleon was finally defeated. Wellington's calm leadership was crucial. He moved among his troops, steadying them under fire, calculating every move with precision. When victory came, he wept at the cost, remarking, "Next to a battle lost, the greatest misery is a battle gained." After Waterloo, Wellington was celebrated across Europe as a hero, but his career was not over. Turning to Britain, he entered politics, serving as commander-in-chief of the British Army and later as prime minister. As a politician, Wellington was less popular. He opposed rapid reform, earning the nickname Iron Duke for his unyielding conservatism. His government faced unrest, including violent protests, but he also oversaw significant events such as Catholic emancipation in 1829, which granted rights to Catholics in Britain and Ireland. Though criticized for his stiffness in politics, he remained respected as a national figure embodying duty and service. In his later years, Wellington remained an elder statesman, offering advice to monarchs and governments. He never sought personal glory, living a disciplined and modest life despite his fame. On September 14, 1852, Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington, died at Walmer Castle at the age of 83. His death was mourned across Britain and Europe. His state funeral in London drew vast crowds, and he was laid to rest in St. Paul's Cathedral near Admiral Nelson, another of Britain's great heroes. The Duke of Wellington's legacy rests on more than just his military victories. He was the soldier who ended Napoleon's dominance, the general who proved Britain could stand toe-to-toe with France, and the statesman who embodied a sense of national duty. He was not flamboyant like Napoleon, nor revolutionary in his methods, but he was steady, reliable, and unshakable, the very qualities that earned him the respect of his soldiers and the gratitude of his nation. Facts about the Duke of Wellington. He was born the same year as Napoleon Bonaparte, 1769, making them near-exact contemporaries. Wellington was a talented violinist in his youth before fully dedicating himself to the military. His mother once dismissed him as food for powder, never expecting greatness from him. At the Battle of Assaye in India, he considered it his hardest and most satisfying victory. His nickname, the Iron Duke, originally referred to the iron shutters on his London home, installed after riots. He disliked giving speeches and was famously awkward in Parliament. Despite his stern public image, he had a sharp sense of humor and enjoyed witty remarks. He and Napoleon never met in person, though their lives intertwined dramatically. He remained commander-in-chief of the British Army until his death. Wellington's state funeral was one of the largest ever in Britain, rivaled only by that of Lord Nelson. Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, was a man who proved that greatness is not always born in brilliance or charm, but forged in discipline, perseverance, and duty. From an unpromising youth to the victor of Waterloo, his life was a testament to quiet strength and steadfast resolve. He stood against the most formidable general of the age and prevailed, not through reckless genius, but through patience, planning, and courage. In politics, He was not loved as he was in war, but his integrity and sense of service remained unshaken. The Iron Duke reminds us that history is shaped not only by those who dazzle with vision, but also by those who endure with determination. His story is one of resilience, sacrifice, and the power of steadfast leadership lessons that still inspire in a world searching for steady hands and resolute hearts.